morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Sehgal.
And I'm Hem Korsaran on the show today. The final countdown for the budget 2024 has started. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will be presenting the first Indian budget of the Modi 3.0 government. All eyes on the budget. What can we expect? What are the tax structure changes that we're in for? This is something we'll be tracking through the course of the day on the show as well.
Also on World DNA today, US Vice President Kamala Harris has vowed to win against Donald Trump in the November elections. Well, she has launched her first full day of campaigning for the Democratic presidential nomination. Meanwhile, the Democratic National Committee chair has announced that the party will announce its nominee for the White House race by August 7th. We will be tracking that on the show, but first a quick check on the headlines.
Indian Army troops foil an infiltration attempt by Pakistani terrorists in Batal sector of Jammu and Kashmir. One Jawan injured in exchange of fire. The operation is currently underway.
All eyes are on Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman as she is set to present first a budget of the Narendra Modi government's third consecutive term today, expected to lay a roadmap for economic growth of the country.
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
US Vice President Kamala Harris launches her election campaign with a blistering attack on Donald Trump, comparing him to predators and cheaters, vows to win November presidential election.
US President Joe Biden to return to the White House today after recovering from COVID-19 at his personal residence in Delaware. First time since dropping out of presidential race.
Gaza health officials claim at least 70 people have been killed and over 200 injured in Israeli operation in Khan Younis after the military ordered the evacuation of the area.
Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba is in China for talks on how Beijing can help end the war with Russia, as China's ties with Moscow has grown stronger after the beginning of the war.
Tour de France champion Tadej Pogačar ruled out of Paris Olympics. The Slovenian was not selected for the games due to fatigue. All right, starting with news from West Asia, an Israeli operation in Khan Younis has killed 70 people. It's wounded more than 200. This as per the health ministry in Hamas.
Right, in a statement, the IDF has said that its fighter jets and tanks struck and eliminated terrorists in the area.
It further added that the forces targeted over 30 terror infrastructure sites in Khan Younis, hitting a weapons storage facility, observational posts, tunnel shafts and structures used by Hamas militants.
This after the Israeli military warned it would forcefully operate in the area. The warning has affected the Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone in southern Gaza and also forced thousands of Palestinians to flee. Israel has also issued new orders to evacuate some neighborhoods in Khan Younis after what it said were renewed militant attacks in the region.
We demand the countries of the world and the leaders of the world to look at us in a humanitarian state and see the situation that we are in. We are displaced 3 times a week. We are now displaced under iron and fire. We are being targeted while we are being displaced, and there is also no transportation. The financial situation is difficult. We have no money to travel, to go and return. Our situation is very difficult.
Now, the latest incident comes 9 days after a strike on Al-Mawasi killed 92 people. Israel had said that the strike was targeting Hamas's commander.
Meanwhile, concerns of the war widening across the region continues to mount. The Israeli military has claimed successfully intercepting 7 unmanned aerial vehicles that crossed from Lebanon into Israel. Hezbollah militants have traded near daily strikes with the Israeli military along their border over the past 9 months.
As Israel battles conflicts across borders, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu finds himself under pressure to reach a truce and hostage release deal in Gaza. Israel has declared 2 more of its hostages being held in Gaza dead. Talks to secure a ceasefire deal that would include the release of about 120 captives are set to resume later this week. An Israeli delegation is expected to visit Doha on Thursday to discuss the new demands for a truce.
Amid increasing demonstrations against his government, Netanyahu is visiting the United States of America this week. He has arrived in Washington, D.C. and is scheduled to address a joint session of Congress. Not only that, he is also expected to meet with U.S. President Joe Biden and will be the first foreign leader to meet Biden since his announcement that he will not seek re-election in November.
Now, apart from the planned sit-down between the two leaders, Netanyahu will also meet with Vice President Kamala Harris during his visit. This as Harris looks set to replace Biden as the Democratic nominee.
Well, hours after announcing his withdrawal from the 2024 race, U.S. President Joe Biden has vowed to campaign for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Now, he has called Vice President Kamala Harris his handpicked successor to be the Democratic presidential nominee. The 81-year-old made the remarks via teleconference while Harris visited the campaign headquarters in Delaware for a poll event.
And I know I'll be doing whatever Kamala wants me or needs me to do in addition. So let me be real clear. We're still fighting in this fight together. I'm not going anywhere. And I want you to know you've always had my back, and I promise you, I will always have your back.
Before beginning the speech, her first since becoming Democrats' likely nominee, Harris expressed her gratitude to the Bidens, referring to the U.S. President and the First Lady Jill as family. Biden replied, saying it's mutual.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe. Oh. I know Donald
Now,
Trump.
Harris took the opportunity to shine in her first stump speech since her failed bid in 2020 with the blistering attack on Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump. Harris compared Trump with predators and cheaters and vowed to draw on her prosecution skills to go after him in the November election.
You know, as many of you know, before I was elected as vice president, before I was elected as United States Senator, I was the elected Attorney General, as I've mentioned, of California, and before that I was a courtroom prosecutor. In those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
Party donors have poured a record $81 million into the campaign in the last 24 hours since Biden exited the White House race and endorsed Harris. A majority of Democrats in Congress and all of the country's Democratic governors, they have also announced their support for Vice President Kamala Harris to lead the Democratic ticket. Nancy Pelosi has also given her a thumbs up as the party's nominee. The former U.S. House Speaker expressed full confidence in her bid to win the election in November.
Meanwhile, the Democratic National Committee has confirmed it will select the party's presidential nominee in an online vote by the 7th of August. A date for the vote has not yet been set.
Even before the official nomination, Harris's campaign, which is still operating from its joebiden.com domain, has unveiled a new logo which features Harris for president in the same font used in the earlier logo for Biden.
And of course, Rahisha, Biden had remained defiant and had said that he will continue with his race for president for the White House. Now with him withdrawing his nomination and Kamala Harris joining the race, how will things pan out going forward? For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report on Kamala Harris's campaign. Listen to this.
Kamala Harris is previewing her campaign argument against the former president by highlighting her experience as Attorney General in California and a prosecutor as well. She emphasized her ability to take on the former president, saying, quote unquote, "I know Donald Trump's type." As Biden's vice president, she will ultimately have to find a way to distinguish herself from the policies of the unpopular sitting president. How she'll be able to do that? Well, we'll soon find out.
Well, Susan further explains the vice president's strategy to win over the Democratic delegation at the convention next month.
Kamala Harris's campaign is gaining momentum with broad swaths of the Democratic base lining up to support her bid. No serious challenger has emerged, at least not yet, and her campaign has raised reportedly $81 million in the first 24 hours. The outpouring of support seems to demonstrate a united front behind Harris's candidacy, and also the significant financial advantage that she's been witnessing in the last 24 hours or so is also very telling.
And seeing all the stories from the United States of America, U.S. lawmakers visited the roof used to open fire at former U.S. President Donald Trump.
Now, post the analysis, they were doubtful over the Secret Service's decision to not station its agents there. The Secret Service had revealed that they did not station agents on the roof because the slope made it unsafe. However, the lawmakers have claimed that they were able to walk on the roof without any difficulty.
As I'm up here on the building where the supposed sniper took a shot, it's not that steep at all. We just had a 70-year-old man back here climb up on the roof easily. See that water tower behind me? Had Secret Service or anybody had sniper teams up there, this guy wouldn't have made it. 5 feet up this roof, he would have been taken out.
Both Republicans and Democrats alike charged at the Secret Service chief, Kimberly Chettle, demanding her resignation over the breach. While Chettle has refused to step down, Republican Representative Mike Turner has said that U.S. President Joe Biden needs to, and I'm quoting here, fire her.
Now, this comes as Chettle admitted that the agency failed in its mission to prevent the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump, and made the admission before the House Oversight Committee in Washington, D.C., where she faced investigation over security lapses and missed opportunities during Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. She called the incident as the agency's most significant operational failure in decades.
The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency. We are fully cooperating with ongoing investigations. We must learn what happened, and I will move heaven and earth to ensure that an incident like July 13th does not happen again.
Chettle also acknowledged the broader security failures and took full responsibility for the breach. The Secret Service director assured that there would be no repeat of it with any other leader. Both Republicans and Democrats united to express outrage at the Secret Service's security failure.
Traffic control, and more. The RNC has also been previous experience.
All right, staying on with news from the United States, a body cam video has now been released by the Illinois State Police Department, which captures the moment a deputy shoots a black woman during a call for help at her home.
It all unfolded after Sonia Masse, a resident of Illinois, calls the police regarding a suspected intruder in her Springfield home. 30-year-old Sean Grayson fired 3 shots, which struck Sonia Masse one time in the face as she ducked for cover behind a kitchen counter. The shooting took place after verbal exchange about a pot on the stove. Grayson, who shot the lady, has pleaded not guilty to charges of first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm and also official misconduct.
He, as of now, is being held in the Sangamon County Jail without bond. If convicted, he faces prison sentence of 45 years to life for murder, 6 to 30 years for battery and 2 to 5 years for misconduct.
Fire! Shots fired! Drop the fucking pot! Good? Alright. Fuck. Well, what else do we do?
Ben Crum, the civil rights attorney who is representing Masse's family, spoke alongside her father during a press conference after video was released. Take a listen.
So the people of Sangamon County have been great. But I want to tell y'all, the sheriff here is an embarrassment. Because this man should have never had a badge. He should have never had a gun. He should have never been given the opportunity to kill my child. Because he had some serious blemishes on his record. Serious. This man had 2 convictions for DUI. He had a conviction for driving under the influence. And he was a member of law enforcement?
My Lord.
What an embarrassment. What an embarrassment to this country, to this county.
We had the President Biden reach out. Vice President Kamala Harris has reached out. Senator Turner reports that the governor is engaged in this tragedy. But most importantly, hundreds of people around America, not just the state of Illinois, immediately when that video came out, it caused them to have an emotional reaction, a complete visceral reaction to the fact that he killed her so senselessly. It was senseless on every level.
Moving on, after weeks of unrelenting demonstrations over government job quotas, an uneasy calm prevails across Bangladesh amid curfew.
But what seems to have taken the centre stage is the political blame game at this point. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has blamed opposition for the protests after top courts scrapped the job quotas.
The Prime Minister has accused the Bangladesh National Party, BNP, of instigating the students and driving the country to social unrest.
BNP is instigating it. My question is, they're doing so many things. Who is patronizing them? You can find out who they're getting the financial help from. You will find that. It's my request to you. This situation will change as quickly as possible. We made the situation calm. It will get better slowly. We lifted the curfew a bit today. And whenever the situation gets better, we will lift the curfew.
The Bangladeshi student group, which has been leading the protest, has suspended protest till Wednesday. The student protesters have given the government 48 hours to release their detained leaders, lift curfew and reopen universities.
Meanwhile, a nationwide internet blackout since last week has drastically restricted the flow of information, leading to massive telecoms disruption as curfew continues to be imposed across the country. Bangladesh Army Chief says the law and order situation has been brought under control after the military was deployed to quell days of violence. Now remember, at least 163 people have lost their lives in the deadly clashes in Bangladesh over the last few weeks.
All right, moving on now. Amid growing tensions in the South China Sea, the Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says his country will not yield on its position on territorial disputes in the strategic waterway.
Marcos has made this remark during his annual State of National Address to Congress.
He vows resolving tensions in the South China Sea through diplomatic channels. He goes on to say that his country will fight for its rights and interests in the face of challenges on territorial sovereignty.
We continuously try to find ways to de-escalate tensions in contested areas with our counterparts without compromising our position and our principles. I know that our neighbors too are doing their best to make this work. The Philippines cannot yield. The Philippines cannot waver.
Marcos' statement comes shortly after the Philippines disclosed a provisional arrangement with China regarding resupply missions to the contested Second Thomas Shoal in the South China Sea. The arrangement aims to manage differences peacefully, with both sides agreeing to de-escalate the situation.
Later, the Chinese Foreign Ministry confirmed the agreement. However, China has reiterated its demand for the Philippines to remove its grounded warship from the shoal. China says it will allow resupply missions only if the Philippines informs it in advance and after on-site verification.
The Philippines occupies Second Thomas Shoal, but China also claims it. The increasing clashes in the sea have sparked fears of bigger conflicts that can perhaps involve the United States of America.
Ferdinand Marcos has raised concerns over the offshore gambling industry dominated by Chinese firms. He has condemned the industry's involvement in illicit activities, including financial scams, money laundering, prostitution, human trafficking, kidnapping, and murder.
Last month, the Chinese embassy in Manila urged the Philippines to ban online gaming in order to support China's initiative to crack down on cross-border gambling. Beijing says it opposed accusations regarding the Chinese government being linked to the Philippine offshore gaming operators known as POGOs. Now, despite China's denial of any government links to POGOs, many of these operators target Chinese customers where gambling is illegal.
Now, last week we reported that Pakistan announced the arrest of a high-ranking Al-Qaeda operative with direct ties to Osama bin Laden.
And the Counter-Terrorism Department of Punjab registered a case against Mohammad ul Haq Sam Khan, accusing him of plotting attacks on critical infrastructure. Pakistan authorities said that the arrest was made after receiving credible intelligence inputs. The Pakistani officials confirm Haq's involvement in various terrorist activities.
In a daring raid in 2011, the U.S. eliminating Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the catastrophic 9/11 attacks in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Osama bin Laden's presence on Pakistani soil was a major embarrassment for the country. Now, 13 years on, another high-profile terrorist has once again, the presence of another high-profile terrorist, it's once again raised several questions about Pakistan's reason for concealment, which is not new.
But the United Nations Security Council's report on July 8th, that gives a completely different picture. It suggested that the arrest of Osama's aide was not the result of a sophisticated intelligence operation, but rather a routine border security measure. The UN report mentions that Haq was arrested 4 months ago, rather than what the Pakistan officials have been claiming.
The UNSC website mentioned Haq's association with the Al-Qaeda, Bin Laden or Taliban groups contributing to or supporting activities such as supplying, selling or transferring arms and related material to them. Apart from that, the current status of other UN-listed terrorists like Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar remains unknown in the country despite involvement in terror attacks in India.
Hafiz Saeed has been wanted by India for years and is the mastermind of the 2008 Mumbai attacks, which killed over 160 people. Saeed is frequently seen openly moving around in Pakistan and is said to be under cover of Pakistan government. And well, it's now time for a quick short break, but don't go anywhere. On the other side of World DNA, we get you a story from India as we continue tracking expectations across sector in the union budget. We look at what the new coalition government's focus will be on, with emphasis on the stressed job market. All this and a lot more on the other side of this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching World DNA.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
The countdown to the budget has begun. Expectations are high.
Upliftment of the health insurance sector, upliftment of the term insurance sector, and the pensions.
Time has come, right, where we need to build even greater physical and digital infrastructure.
The stakes are even higher.
GDP growth of 7% plus. My belief is before the end of the year, you're going to see it at 8.5.
They have done a tremendous job in the financial inclusion accounts and the PM General Commissioner.
We crunch the numbers for you, the taxpayer.
On one side, this proposed 11 lakh crore spending on infrastructure. They should continue that.
India's overall population, there's a very small percentage of the population which is today covered under some kind of a formal insurance plan.
And bring you all the expert analysis. Catch continuous coverage of India's budget 2024-25 live on WION from 7 a.m. IST. What does India want from the new government's budget? How will it respond to expectations from industry? What's in store for you, the taxpayer? Is the government using your hard-earned money wisely? WION cuts out the noise and serves you the facts. Watch continuous coverage on India Budget, Roadmap to a Developed Nation.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show as well. Let's get started with the headlines first.
All eyes are on Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman as she is set to present her first budget of Narendra Modi government's third consecutive term today, expected to lay roadmap for economic growth of the country.
Indian Army troops foil an infiltration attempt by Pakistani terrorists in Battal sector of Jammu and Kashmir. One Jawan injured in exchange of fire. The operation is currently underway.
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris launches her election campaign with blistering attack on Donald Trump, comparing him to predators and cheaters, vows to win November presidential election.
U.S. President Joe Biden to return to the White House today after recovering from COVID at his personal residence in Delaware, first time since dropping out of the presidential race.
Gaza health officials claim at least 70 people have been killed and over 200 injured in Israeli operation in Khan Younis after the military ordered an evacuation of the area.
Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba is in China for talks on how Beijing can help end the war with Russia, as China's ties with Moscow have grown stronger after the beginning of the conflict.
Tour de France champion Tadej Pogačar ruled out of Paris Games. The Slovenian was not selected for the Games due to fatigue.
All right, as we continue tracking expectations across sectors in the budget, we look at the new coalition government and what the focus will be on this time.
Absolutely, Haim. And our next report tells you just that. Take a look. With the Union Budget 2024 approaching on July 23rd, various sectors across India are buzzing with anticipation. This will be the first full budget presented by the re-elected Modi government following their Lok Sabha election victory. A common theme across sectors is the hope for renewed tax reforms and increased government spending on infrastructure. The real estate industry, for example, is looking for tax relief to stimulate the market, while the financial sector is eyeing tax breaks for consumers. Additionally, experts suggest raising the standard deduction under the personal income tax structure and simplifying the goods and services tax. The education sector seeks a budgetary boost for teacher training and also digital infrastructure projects. Meanwhile, The small and medium business sector anticipates an extension of the non-performing asset classification timeline in a bid to provide breathing room for managing cash flow. The expansion of the production-linked incentive scheme to include more industries is also high on the small and medium businesses' wish lists. The government has prioritized an investment-led growth strategy in recent years. This has resulted in a major increase in capital expenditure on infrastructure projects.
An outlay of 2,200 crores.
In the 2023-2024 budget, the capital expenditure outlay was nearly 3 times the amount allocated in 2019 and 2020. This trend is expected to continue in the new budget, with a focus on sectors like energy, transportation, and logistics. This increased investment in infrastructure and logistics aligns with the government's long-term goal of transforming India into a $5 trillion economy. Initiatives like the National Logistics Policy and Bharatmala Pariyojana are expected to strengthen connectivity further and also fuel the growth of the logistics industry. The budget is also expected to address the government's ambitions within the semiconductor industry. Increased budgetary allocation for research and development in high-tech sectors like semiconductors is also anticipated. Industry leaders believe that partnerships with global leaders will be crucial for enhancing domestic manufacturing capabilities and positioning India as a leader in this space. With the pre-budget discussions in full swing, industry stakeholders across various sectors are hopeful that Budget 2024 will provide the required impetus for economic growth, job creation, and also long-term sustainable growth. Well, that is driving the current rally in Indian stocks to new record highs and multiple fresh milestones. Well, India is the fastest growing major economy in the world. But the question right now is that, is the country's working population happy? Are they happy with their wages and opportunities? Well, that's what our next report decodes. Take a look.
India, touted as the world's fastest growing economy, faces mounting concerns from global agencies regarding its ability to generate sufficient employment opportunities amidst robust economic expansion. Despite GDP growth rates consistently exceeding 7% in recent years, the nation grapples with persistent challenges in job creation, particularly in the formal sector. India's demographic potential with a burgeoning working-age population is poised to be a major asset if gainfully employed. However, concerns loom large over the ability to harness this demographic dividend effectively. India's workforce, which totals 593.7 million, predominantly engages in the informal sector, where job security and welfare benefits are often inadequate. The periodic labor force survey indicates a decline in headline unemployment rates, but underscores a persistent issue of underemployment and informal labor market conditions. Experts emphasize the critical need for enhancing job quality and formalizing enterprises to bolster economic stability and social equity. They argue that fostering an environment conducive to business growth, reducing regulatory hurdles, and promoting inclusive labor practices are essential steps towards mitigating employment challenges. The forthcoming Union Budget 2024-2025 assumes heightened significance as stakeholders anticipate targeted interventions to stimulate job creation across sectors. As India prepares to leverage its economic momentum, the budget's role in recalibrating policies to foster sustainable employment growth remains pivotal. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, ahead of the Union Budget, India released its crucial economic survey report for 2023-24, and the data from the survey is used as a base for all of the budget allocations.
Let's now take a look at what the numbers are saying right now.
Now, the survey says India's economy showed remarkable resilience, continued growth despite global challenges. The real GDP growth for financial year 24 was 8.2%, marking the third consecutive year of over 7% growth. And this robust performance, it was driven by stable consumption demand and increasing investment demand.
The report also highlights India's strategic response to the global challenges, which include substantial public spending on infrastructure and also digitalization of service delivery and targeted relief through government schemes. These measures not only kept the economy afloat, but it also positioned it for vigorous recovery and medium-term growth. Despite intermittent inflationary pressures due to global supply chain disruptions and geopolitical tensions, administrative and monetary policy responses managed these very effectively.
The fiscal balances of the general government improved progressively, supported by tax compliance gains and expenditure restraint. Fiscal consolidation remains a priority for the government, aiming to reduce the fiscal deficit to 4.5% of GDP or lower by financial year 26. This commitment to prudent fiscal management, it helps maintain sovereign debt sustainability, which in turn stabilizes bond yields and spreads. Despite global challenges, India's external balance was managed effectively, with strong services exports offsetting the subdued global demand for goods.
Well, overall, the survey presents an optimistic outlook for financial year 2025, forecasting broad-based and inclusive growth. With such clear priorities outlined in the report, the budget today will be particularly intriguing to watch.
Now, that being said, India's demographic dividend is touted to be the next growth engine. But is the government doing enough? That's the big question.
Right, Heyman. This is what a few students had to say about the job market in the country. Take a listen.
In comparison to that, what I'm feeling here, that education in state government schools is totally free. There's so much education. Women are so empowered because of education. And if I compare it to Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, there's lack of education policies, lack of implementing those educational schemes there. And that is the main barrier for seeking job opportunities.
The lack of awareness that we do have a different sector altogether for different subjects is very low. Because if I was the person and I am 19 and don't know about certain things, that means there are students who don't know about things. I have facilities and I don't know, and there might be students who don't have facilities. How will they know? So the employment opportunities like this only is very niche, like getting to know about history. What will you do? Being a teacher, museum, artist? There is nothing else about it, which led me to this journalism prospect. So the lack of awareness among students is in such a huge level that it is distorting the mindset of the student and what to do.
Talking specifically about the public healthcare system, I feel that they are doing their best, and of course with coming policies there's always teething problems, and that can be dealt with eventually by proper feedback and by getting to know what the people think about these healthcare systems.
Reports show a growing debate on the reliability of India's jobs data. WION earlier spoke to Mithali Nikor, an economist, on the employment landscape and her take on the debate. Take a listen.
So I think going forward, what the government of India is doing is absolutely right. You know, at the end of the day, we are improving our data systems. So of course, we would want global organizations to take our data systems and real data that we are able to provide into account when they are making projections. Of times, the size of India's informal economy, for example, which generates a lot of the employment, often gets missed in the international organization projections, whereas the periodic labor force participation survey for the first time attempts to even understand the size of the informal job market by talking to people and by also estimating the size of those who are in self-employment. You know, who might be doing small enterprises, who might be doing their own work. So I think it's very important to go by the Government of India data because it's far more comprehensive.
All right, she went on to speak about India's informal sector and how this constitutes a big chunk of the country's job market as well. Listen to this.
The report said it all. It definitely is, because it's half the population lives there.
60% of the employment comes from the agriculture sector. Agriculture provides crucial inputs for industry, and industry provides demand for goods from the rural sector. So it's a synergistic relationship, and one cannot grow without the other. Rural sector is a very critical sector, and in fact, agriculture, we are self-sufficient in food, and we are the largest and second largest producer in several commodities, agricultural commodities. And from a food deficit country, we've now become an exporter of food grains to the world. So agriculture is very important, and agriculture and the rural economy, and I won't say just agriculture, the rural sector has become very important.
Well, coming to the rural sector's wish list for the budget, listen in to what she had to say on this.
Framework would remain within, it would be marked by continuity. There would be, the whole push would be towards a Viksit Bharat, how to make India a developed country while remaining within the fiscal prudence limit. So now all this cannot happen if you ignore the agriculture sector, if you ignore the rural sector, if you ignore half the population that lives in these areas.
All right, time now for all the developments from the world of technology. Child safety experts have alleged that Apple is not effectively monitoring its platforms or scanning for images and videos of child sexual abuse. The UK's National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, it's accused Apple of underestimating the frequency of child sexual abuse material on its platforms. And according to police data, child predators in England and Wales used Apple's iCloud, iMessage and FaceTime to store and exchange abuse material more often than Apple reported. It was found that Apple was implicated in 337 recorded offences of child abuse images between 2022 and 2023 in England and Wales. Additionally, in 2023, Apple made just 267 reports of suspected child sexual abuse material on its platforms worldwide. And this contrasts starkly with Google, which reported over 1.4 million cases, and Meta, which reported over 30 million cases.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk has announced that the car manufacturer will have humanoid robots manufactured in low numbers for the company's internal use next year. Musk posted on X saying that the automaker will hopefully have the production of these robots in high numbers for other companies in 2026. He said that the Tesla robot called Optimus will perform tasks in a factory by the end of this year and could be ready for sale as soon as the end of 2025. Companies are betting on the humanoid robots to address potential labor shortages and also to handle repetitive tasks that could be dangerous or tedious, such as logistics, warehousing, manufacturing, and even assisting in healthcare settings.
Artificial intelligence, it's outpaced doctors in detecting prostate cancer in men. A new study by the University of California has found that an AI tool called Unfold AI identifies prostate cancer with 84% accuracy. This is compared to a 67% accuracy for cases detected by physicians. The AI tool uses an algorithm to visualize the likelihood of cancer based on various clinical data. This helps determine if a patient needs focal therapy or more radical treatments like radiation therapy. The study suggests AI can lead to more accurate diagnoses and targeted treatments. However, experts warn that AI's accuracy depends on the quality of the data it is trained on, and poor data can lead to inaccurate diagnosis. They caution against over-reliance on AI and emphasize that it should complement, not replace, clinical judgment.
Let's now get you some quick updates from the Paris Games, which begins in another 3 days. French President Emmanuel Macron visited the Paris 2024 Olympic Village on Monday, 4 days before